It's 7 o'clock. Calling the PCRN Tuesday night net. The PCRN Piedmont Coastal Repeater Networks 224.160 net. The special edition with the special guest K4ITL tonight. My name is Charles, and my call sign is KI4DCR, and I'm located here in North Raleigh, and I'll be your net control station for the net. Our net meets every Tuesday and Wednesday at 7. I usually do Tuesday. Robert does Wednesday. All stations are welcomed and encouraged, and we try to promote fun and friendship as well as information pertaining to the amateur radio community. The repeater is located on the WRAL TV tower, and it utilizes a 91.5 tone. To check in, call net control KI4DCR, pause to check for Dublin. Give your name, call sign, and location. Advise if you're portable, mobile, or short time, and we'll get to you first after roll call. Reminder, the net is being streamed, live streamed on the 224.16 K4ITL PCRN Repeater Cruise Facebook group. So if you're not on that group, you're not going to see it. But you should be able to get into that. If you're not on it and you want to join, just apply and I'll add you right quick. I got two different things here monitoring just to make sure nobody's left out. This will be kind of a different format of the net, so I'm not going to do any items for sale or trade or anything like that. I will go ahead and see if anybody has any additional announcements they want to make on the net and bring them to my attention. If so, please call KI4DCR.
KI4DCR.
There he is. I knew he'd be in there.
This is AP Florida, Allen, North Raleigh, with two announcements.
All right, Alan, I was hoping you'd be there. I got you. And let me just check and make sure Danny is with us tonight. K4ITL from KI4DCR.
I sure am. I'll be here. I assume you'll go ahead and take check-ins and everything. That'd probably be good. I'm here. K4ITL.
Yep, I was going to go ahead and do that next, and then we'll get Alan's announcements, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers after that. All right, let's take check-ins from stations with call suffixes A through N, Alpha through November.
KI4DCR. This is WA4IHM, Rocky Wake Forest. Good evening, Charles, and all in the net. Please check me in and out, but I'll be listening.
KI4DCR. Please check in KG4BDX, Robert and Powell.
KI4DCR. This is K4ILX out in Northwest Johnson County. In and out.
All right, so far I have Brock, WA4IHM, in and out. Trip, N4NTO, down in Edgecombe County. Tarboro, he says he's hearing us but cannot get in, and he's listening through the Facebook. KD4DIT, Cullen, and he's in Lake Wiley, South Carolina. And let's see, KO4CWC, Randy in Statesville is in and out also. Anybody else on the A through N before I go to the second half?
KI4DCR. It's Whiskey 2 November Papa Romeo, Hector in westernmost Wake Forest. KI4DCR. Here is KG4BDX, Robert and Pilot.
All right, I'm going to recap everybody. WA4IHM in and out, N4NTO in and out, KD4DIT in and out, KG4BDX, Robert got you in, K4ILX, Todd was in and out, Hector is in, W2NPR. Okay, second half of the alphabet, Oscar through Zulu.
K4DCR, W4TTO, John, Wake Forest.
KI4DCR, K4PNT, Randy in Southwest Raleigh. KI4DCR, this is Kilo Mike 4, this is Romeo, Quebec, going Apex, in and out.
KI4DCR, please check in John, N4YFU, inside the belt line. KI4DCR, please check in and out with no traffic, WW4TLB.
KI4DCR, WA4OSS, Charlie and Nightdale. KI4DCR, KD4WJD, U and Wendell.
Wow, I'm getting overwhelmed. People on the Facebook are blowing this thing up. All right, W4TTO, Joe, I've got you in and hanging around, as well as Randy, KE4PNT. I've got the other Joe out in Apex, KM4WRQ, in and out. Thanks for adding one to the count. N4YFU, John, good to have you hanging around tonight. Thomas, thanks, man, for adding one to the count. WW4TLB, in and out. Charlie, Nightdale, WA4OSS is in and hanging around. N4EJM, John in Winnebago, is in and out by internet. And then I have KD4WJD, and that's Hugh and Wendell is in. Anybody else, A through Z? I had one other early check-in. That was KN8DAP, David in Nightdale, and he may return. All right, let's go to the top of the list for Alan and his announcements, and he can go right into your rag chew, and then we'll start with Danny after that.
Thank you. KI4DCR. This is AB4OZ. Good evening. Well, all this information is posted on QRZ.com under my call sign AB4OZ, Alpha Bravo for Oscar Zulu. First announcement is that the AB4OZ Handfest will be December 12th, Saturday, December 12th, weather permitting. And the reason why I use QRZ is everyone can look it up and see how the weather is. I'll post whether we have it or not because of the weather, and if we get rained out, I'll just move it to the next weekend. So watch for the weather report on QRZ for the Handfest. We only got a little less than 2 weeks to go for that. The other announcement is about Gary K4ITL has a video, a YouTube video about repeater etiquette that he did. KI4TFS, Martin helped him out with that. So it's posted on my QRZ page. It's also posted on Martin's website. Both of those links to the YouTube and to Martin's web is on QRZ.com under my call sign AB4OZ. It's a very good video. It has to do with repeater etiquette. It has to do with reasons why we do the way we do things on repeaters, as far as check-ins and doublings and how to tell when things are going on. So it's an interesting video. And just a reminder, QRZ.com, for any updates you want to look on QRZ.com. I update that continuously. Don't trust YouTube. Don't trust Twitter and all those other accounts. Go directly to QRZ.com under my call sign to get the latest updates. AB4Z, back to net control.
Thanks, Alan. I'll have to dig up and find that video. That's really good. I was going to do something like that a couple of years ago and never got time to do it. So I'm glad somebody took the helm and did that. That's awesome. And again, just a reminder, folks, QRZ.com to check out all this stuff and punch in AB4OZ. How about a rag sheet real quick?
Okay, real quick, let's see, finally got the refrigerator out of the house yesterday, and had trouble with the power supply on the station last night. I was sitting here after the 6-meter net. I noticed that my battery voltage, the charge voltage, all of a sudden dropped by 200 to 300 mil. I had trouble trying to figure out what was going on, looking around, and everything looked right. Couldn't find anything that was going on. So finally what I ended up doing was reset I just turned the breaker on and off on the controller. And apparently the contacts were getting a little bit dirty. And sure enough, it came back up to 13.8 where it belonged. So went out and did some shopping today, got my hair cut. Now I got to figure out what to do about the leaves. Back to that control, AB4OZ.
Yeah, I got mine cut the other day, and I was real happy I had a different girl cut it again, and actually got probably the best haircut I've had yet. Well, thanks, man, for all the updates and all the work you do for amateur radio, and I need to get up with you and get one of those weatherproof boxes for something. I got something at the beach that my camera keeps shorting out every time it rains down there, so I'm going to put the connections in one of those boxes, and that should stop that. Something to do at the next Swap Fest. All righty. So what I'm going to do now is let Danny introduce himself and kind of pick things up, and then we'll kind of throw it out and we'll take people one at a time for questions about repeaters or whatever else you may have questions about involving ham radio that Danny you think can answer. And I'm sure he can, because I can't. I don't know a lot about things. So Danny, it's over to you, sir.
KI4DCR in the group from K4ITL. Good evening, everyone. I'll first start by giving an update on the 224.16 antenna project. Stand by just a second. The word of the day is patience.
Always.
I'm sure we're all tired of hearing that. Work is continuing to go on at the towers. They're working on the other tower now. This has been a monumental project for the guys. It's actually a nationwide project. These conversions to the new digital TV format are going on nationwide. And there have been numerous holdups for people getting their equipment to install it. Antennas, availability of the helicopter. There's only 1 or 2 helicopters nationwide that can do the work that has to be done when it comes to the antennas. And also the FCC has had to extend the date for everybody completing things because COVID has set a lot of the manufacturers back, and along with that, the manufacturers simply could not keep up as they hoped they would be able to in providing everybody nationwide with the hardware they needed. So we have the antennas. We're waiting for a window to put them up, and right now I really don't know when that'll be. They just started work on the second tower, and they're going to probably be there at least a month. And of course, winter is upon us too. But we are guests. We're very privileged to be there. And the guys out there have had a monumental task coordinating all this stuff and working. They've had to change plans at the last minute many times to get stuff done. And so the project rolls on. And that's where we are with that situation. I'll be glad to take any questions about that, and then any other questions about repeaters in general or the 22416 or anything else that anybody might have. And I do want to express my appreciation to everybody, all the hands, for their support on the project we have going on. It's been really rewarding and fantastic that everybody has pitched in to help. And it certainly is appreciated by the work crew. KI4DCR from K4ITL.
Awesome update, Danny. And yes, patience is a virtue I used to not have, but I've learned now that impulsiveness was one of my biggest enemies in my youth. And I've gotten rid of that trait, and I learned to sit back and wait for things, and things turn out a lot better for me than they used to. All right, questions for Danny. Let's start one at a time. If you're doing the internet thing, it's real easy because you can just text them through the Facebook, but this will be for the people that are actually checked in. I can start with the first one that checked in, which was Robert. Do you have a question for Danny?
I do not have a question, but I know repeater owners are busy people. It takes a lot of effort, and we operators are certainly dependent. We're dead in the water without repeater owners. So I thank you, Danny, for your efforts. Back to net control, KG4DCR.
I agree. A lot of people use this repeater as well as Danny's other machines, and we really enjoy it, especially during the recent pandemic that we're going through. It's a great socialization tool for all of us. All right, I'm going to go to the next station that checked in and is hanging around. That's Hector, W2NPR. Any questions for Danny?
KI4DCR, W2NPR. No questions for Danny. Good to hear you, and good to hear you, Danny. Hope things are well. Hope you and Miss Rose had a great Thanksgiving, and we certainly appreciate all that you do. And that's it for me. And that's the scoop. So stay well, stay safe, and we'll look forward to hearing you again. Back to you there, Charles. KI4DCR, W2NPR.
Thanks, man. You got a booming signal and good audio. I had to turn the radio down a little bit because you outperform everybody with the robust audio signal. So good job with that. All right, let's move a little further down the list to stay in the Wake Forest area to W4TTO. Joe, you're up.
KI4DCR, W4TTO. I do have a question for Danny. In regards to the 146.88 antenna, I know it's at another location, and years ago the repeater was is there any?
Joe, we lost you, but I know what the question was, and Danny wants to know about the 14688 being resurrected, I think, to its former state as a very powerful repeater that it used to be, or what are the plans for the 8.8?
Good evening, Joe. W4TTO, K4ITL. As a matter of fact, yes. And of course, it is on one of the towers that is having DTV work done on it now. Matter of fact, they're working on the tower now that 8.8 and 2.1 and 2.7 are located on. We do have plans to resurrect 8.8. We have, we're in hopes that we're going to get some major help with that project, and we're waiting now to see if that comes to fruition. I really don't want to say much about it until it happens, but we've had someone locally involved with communications professionally to offer to give us some help. So we are planning to resurrect 8.8 with new antennas and new hardware.
Nice, nice.
When the time comes and when we can get access. Okay, JP, thank you very much. W4TTO.
Okay, and that's clear with W4TTO, Joe. That was a great question, and it was also one that I had, and loved the response from Danny. I can remember before I got licensed, listening to the JARS, the 2.7, and the 8.8, and those were the two frequencies that got me to get up with Martin, and we took our test and got our licenses back in 03. And that 8.8 was something else, and I look forward to getting it back. And a lot of people still use it, but I look forward to it getting back to the coverage area that it had back in the day. Okay, we'll go to Randy, KE4PNT. Let me do Martin real quick. Martin, just before I go to Randy, stand by. Martin wants to know, Danny, what can we do to help you the most with all these projects and the repeaters and anything else involving ham radio? Good question.
Well, it's K4ITL. Right now, all we can do is hope for a break when it comes to get things done, and continued support is always welcome. But we're in a pretty good position now as far as being ready to go when the time gets presented to us.
That is a great response, and we will continue. I know I will, and I've had several other people contact me privately through Facebook, email, text, messenger, TikTok, you name it, wanting to know how to make contributions, and I have forwarded all them to either Rose's email she gave me for PayPal, or either just the PCRN .com or whatever it is, PCRN.net page. Sorry, I had to look at the charts. So many things going on. I've probably had 35 check-ins already, so I'm a little flustered here, but we're making sense of it all. Martin, awesome question. Hope you copied the response. And I'm going to go back to Randy, KE4PNT. And Randy, if you don't have any question for Danny, feel free to do a short rag chew.
Well, Charles, I have a brief question for Danny. It's just something I'm curious about. And while he's here and brought up the subject himself, thought I would ask, how does winter weather impact major tower climbing like the WRA towers for Murray? Is there a certain temperature range that he has to wait for? what ways winter weather impacts tower work K4TNT, and thanks
Awesome
for being
question.
here tonight.
Great question.
Sure thing, Randy. K4PNT from K4ITL. There are several variables that come into play at different times. As far as the temperature is concerned, you can, if other conditions are stable, you can work up there. I have been up there and worked when the temperature was down around 40 and sometimes slightly below 40. It is not pleasant, but if you wear the appropriate clothing and everything, and you have to get something done, it can be done. As you mentioned, the ice, of course, that's if the towers get iced up, there's no going near them for days. There's an enormous amount of ice that has been shed by those towers from time to time. Some of it's put big craters in the ground. There's been pieces of ice that come off that were, several hundred pounds in weight. And of course, sometimes, depending on how they fall and if the wind is blowing, they do damage to stuff that are side mounted on the tower way down, on their way down. The big issue is the wind. For the last several days, for example, most days, the wind has been gusting 40 to 50 up on the tower. And there is very little you can do when it's like that. Particularly, you can't do any antenna work because you have an antenna tied off on a rope, and you've got people maneuvering it around and having to get it outside the tower. And there's just no way you would attempt to do that if the wind's above about 15 or 20 miles an hour at the most. So I'd say that when there's no icy conditions around, that the wind plays as big a problem in keeping things from being done as anything else. K4PNT from K4ITL.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. That clarifies it a little bit in my mind. And I know that the winds at 1,800 feet are different than the winds at 10 feet. Thank you, K4PNT.
Randy, excellent question. And that also probably goes into the fact that I know Joe, W4TTO, can get into the repeater a little better when it's rainy, not so much when it's windy. And Danny, I'm just assuming that all that is just based on atmospheric conditions and propagation more than anything else, correct?
That is correct.
All righty. And Martin, KI4CFS, he says he wants to thank you for the project on the D-Star. And that's moving forward, and your input and help with that. And I'm going to probably have to get me a D-Star radio because I'm pretty excited about it. I could hear the static on the D-Star simplex the other night, and that told me there was a lot of people getting in on that test of it, so that was cool. A couple other stations I want to acknowledge real quick. KW4BT Herb in Middlesex is listening and with us. Let's see, KD4HCT Ron in Beulahville, and a couple of others had come online here. But yeah, I've been moving the camera around to show people the setup I've got, and just so it's not on my ugly face the whole time, because I'm looking down at a piece of paper where I'm usually looking at the camera, but I've got so many check-ins and so much stuff going on that I don't want to mess up or miss anybody. Okay, I'm going to go to the next station that checked in, which is N4YFU, John, inside the belt line. And if you don't have a question for Danny, that's fine. Give us a short rag chew. If you do, you can do both.
Okay, this is John, N4YFU, inside the belt line in Raleigh. And even though I'm really looking forward to the new antenna, the existing signal really goes a long way, because last week when I was at my parents' old house in Greensboro, I could pick up this repeater just with a Radio Shack telescoping antenna, but I've never tried to hit it from there. I don't have an outside antenna there. And a couple other comments. I think I have this right, but I remember in December 1989 there was a significant ice storm that hit this area, and it took two of the towers down in the Auburn area. Randy was talking about ice, and WRAL had their transmitter on one of those towers, and within a matter of hours they negotiated with a TV tower in Middlesex, and I think it was channel 40 at that point in time. But I remember that was a really big deal. So anyhow, that's about the way it is with me. This is John, N4YFU, inside the belt line.
Danny, any comments on that?
I could have some comments on that, but it would take all night. That was a very, very challenging time in my life and several other people's. Those two towers fell on a Sunday morning. The WRAL tower and the WRDU Channel 28 TV tower. They're both located at Auburn, and they fell within 30 minutes of each other. And a lot of pre-existing conditions had to take place to cause that to happen. But we lost all the commercial equipment and all the amateur equipment on both of those towers, and they both had both commercial and amateur equipment on them. And there's some real stories that go along with what all happened the rest of that day and for several weeks after that. But John, your memory's correct. That was really an interesting time.
Back in that day, I was working for a station called WZZU 93.9, the Morning Zoo, and Donna Mason and a bunch of other people over there at that station, a rock station. I remember all that well. I think I was still working for PTF part-time when all that happened, but that was a bad scene. Sorry that had to happen. A couple other stations that checked in. KD4 Alpha Delta Lima, Derek in Virginia. And he says, Angie says hi, KC4 ASU. Lots of people using the Facebook tonight. I've got probably close to 40 check-ins here altogether. I've probably got some I haven't read out. The next one that checked in is Charlie in Nightdale, WA4OSS. And if you have a question for Danny, by all means, go ahead with it. If you don't, just do a short rag chew, and we'll keep on going with it.
WA4OSS, just say good evening to everybody. I don't have any questions. Good to hear Danny on tonight, all the other folks. I well remember December the 10th of 89. That began the busiest period of my life for a long, long time after that. So, carry on from WA4OSS.
Good to hear you, Charlie. I tried to get into the 6-meter AM net, but I couldn't even hear Charlie at all Monday night, so I didn't bother because he wouldn't have been able to hear me. I don't know what was going on. A lot of noise on the band. All right, we got plenty of time here. It's just a little after 7:30. Anybody else A through Z, or that's listening through Facebook or text message or whatever you have, that would like to join us here on the special edition of our 220 Rag Chew Net, please call KI4DCR.
KI4DCR. This is N4GEB, Bob and Clayton.
KI4DCR. This is Kilowatt 4 Juliet Delta Romeo, K4JDR, Northwest Johnston County. Been listening, checking in and out.
Two more fine stations, and I appreciate all these comments about 94Z, listening to them, and you probably heard me on the radio over there. I worked there for quite a while, from like 86 to 1990, I believe it was. All right, I picked up N4GEB. Bob and Clayton is hanging around with us. Ronnie, appreciate you. K4JDR, adding one to the count. So we'll go back to Bob and Clayton. If you have a question for Danny, go right ahead with it. If not, you can do a quick rag chew.
I appreciate that, Charles. Yeah, a question for Danny. This is more television related than it is amateur radio propagation. But I live about 7 miles away from the Auburn Towers there, and I noticed when it gets wet and then when it gets windy that the signal strength can vary from very, very strong, as you might expect being that close, to down to the point where actually the signal goes away completely, which is what happens when a digital signal goes below a threshold. Just curious, is that due to being too close to the tower, or is that due to trees and stuff moving around in between me and the tower? And like everybody else has said, appreciate the hard work you do. Back to net control at 4GEB.
N4GEB from K4ITL. Good evening. It's probably due to absorption by trees and leaves, especially when we got a lot of leaves like we have now. It will be interesting to see how much that changes in the wintertime when all the leaves are gone. But I'm betting that that's a lot of what you're seeing. What type of antenna are you using at your location for TV reception?
It's a fairly simple, I forget what the brand of it is, but basically it's about, I think, 6 elements and a reflector at the back, kind of a folded V arrangement over.
How high above ground do you have it?
Well, it's pretty well hidden behind the house, so I'm thinking maybe 8 feet. It's pretty low.
Okay. Yeah, of course, as you surmised, there ought to be plenty of saturation there where you are. But it'll be interesting to watch that situation over the next 2 or 3 months and see what occurs.
Okay, appreciate that. We'll keep an eye out and report back. Wish 7-3 to everybody. Have a great evening, and 4GEB clear.
All right, and I accidentally missed somebody here on the list. KD4WJD, Hugh and Wendell. Sorry, sir, I somehow skipped over you. You're up. You have a question for Danny, feel free to ask it. If not, we'd love to hear a short rag chew.
I just had a curiosity question. I want to know if he has plans for anything other than D-Star or other forms of digital communication on any of the repeaters. Other than that, I have nothing else to add, but I do appreciate all the good work that Danny does and all the rest of you that help him out. Thanks very much. KD4WJD.
Evening, Hugh. Good to hear you. K4ITL. Well, we have DMR
course, the big DMR repeater that's on the big tower is also down because of all that's going on, and we hope to get it back up. We're going to get it back up at a different location here very shortly, and it'll probably cover Raleigh and the DMR one will, and hopefully out your way and everything. It's going to be at a site in North Raleigh.
Man, that's good for me.
I don't think it'll do well too far south of Raleigh, but I think it may do okay over in the Cary area, and hopefully a little ways out east where you are. The DMR network is called the PRN network, not the PCRN network. And that network has, you can go sometime when you got time, go to ncprn.net, and you will see that network has probably 75 repeaters in it in North and South Carolina, and a few in Virginia. So it's an interesting network too, if you want to play with DMR stuff. Thank you, Danny. Good to hear from you too.
Now, that was great information, because I had been wondering about the Raleigh DMR and what was going on with that, and North Raleigh sounds good, as I am in North Raleigh, so that's kind of cool for me, because don't really have a DMR hotspot or anything hooked up, and I can get into the Cary one just fine running high power on a CS800, but it'd be nice to have something here in North Raleigh I can just use a handheld with. I enjoy DMR a lot, and I use it going back and forth to the beach a lot, and really am impressed with the coverage between here and Hatteras, and then both between here and the new place in Topsail Island, even more so there because it's such a short commute. And thanks to Martin and Danny and Richard, 84, sorry, my phone's going off. Richard Futrell for the work with the D-Star. It sounds like that's going along real well. And don't forget that ncprn.net. I got to write that down. I knew I had it bookmarked somewhere, but I want to look that up again for your DMR, the PRN net, showing the machines on that. And let's see, anybody else? Danny, if you could just recap real quick about the 220 antennas, just in a couple sentences. I had 2 or 3 people that missed the first part of the net, and we're asking about that. Just a quick synopsis of that, and we'll see if we have any other questions at that point, which I don't think we do, but we'll make one last call.
I will be glad to, and also say hi to Derek and Angie. You told me they were on Facebook and the road song too. Derek has been involved in communications a long time. He was in Charlotte for a very long time, and he's in Virginia now, and has multiple repeaters in North Carolina and Virginia that he looks after. And I also wanted to make a comment as far as Charlie, WA4OSS. Charlie was working at WRAL when the towers fell, and Charlie worked there for many years, and so he's got lots of stories too about the day that it happened and the months and years after it happened. My comments on the antennas were the word of the day is patience. Work is still going on at both towers, and there's been many delays, not due to the fault of our local people at the tower sites. They've done a yeoman's job of juggling things around and having to react to situations on the spur of the moment, but the manufacturers, due to COVID and other things, have not been able to keep up with the orders for equipment. this is a nationwide situation as far as the new DTV format. And it's happening everywhere, and the manufacturers have had problems keeping up with orders, and the FCC has had to extend the time for everybody to be finished. So we're just grateful that we are there, and very fortunate that we're there. And this multi-million dollar project is continuing to go on with lots and lots of hard work for the guys locally here that work at the tower site and in the engineering department downtown. And hopefully in the next month or two they'll be finished, and we'll be able to make something happen. KI4DCR from K4ITL.
Danny, I can't thank you enough for all this positivity tonight, and I think we should do this once a quarter, just to keep people up to date. And I'm going to have Ron Casey back on here, and I want to have Murray on here one time, and Harold, W4BAD, and some other people on here. I think it jazzes up the net, and I'll change the format around. Instead of just doing the same rag chews and the same stuff, try to liven it up by having guests on here. Very informative. I learned a lot about a lot of questions, some questions I had forgotten about. And Martin just says here, I want to make it real clear, the D-Star project is just a project. No guarantees, working on it. And may start as a low power test. And I'm going to give them an antenna, a good base antenna for that. And if you want to know the progress, just contact Martin, KI4CFS. And he's doing a good job with that. Anybody else that wants to get in any more questions? I'll make this the last call. Any stations, Alpha through Zulu, call KI4DCR for any questions for Danny or the rest of us, or anything else.
KI4DCR. WW4TLV was a comment.
I got Thomas in with a comment. Anybody else? Last and final call before we get to Thomas. I got a November 4, and that's all I got. If you can log in through Facebook and send me a message that way, you're just not quite making the repeater. Sorry, I can't even tell who you are. I just got just a little bit of it, and I could understand it trying to get in. So I would try to use the Facebook or send a text or something like that. So I'm going to go back to Thomas, WW4TLB, and pick it up. Thomas, you're up with comments.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank Danny Hampton for the fantastic job he does on all the repeaters that he manages around, not only in the local area, around the state. But I also would like to say we need to say a thanks to Capital Broadcasting Company Incorporated for allowing amateur radios to have the space on the towers that we have. We are very lucky for that space that they gracefully donate to the amateur radio community. That is a very pricey piece of real estate that goes high in the air, and I don't think any of us know the price that they're giving for us to have that real estate or that plot that we have up on the towers. So Danny, please send my condolences to Capital Broadcasting and Jim Goodman and the guys over there at WRAL, that we, the Amateur Radio Society, we appreciate what they're donating to the amateur radio community. WW4TLV.
And I have one more comment pertaining to DCR, Charles.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I meant to say DMR.
DMR.
are plans for an additional DMR repeater in Clinton, North Carolina. Charlie Durst, NC4CD, is working on that. I'll be helping him. And the thinking is that will fill in a spot on the I-40 corridor, and you'll have contiguous coverage on DMR between here and Wilmington. I don't know exactly when that's going to take place, but it's definitely going to take place in the next several months. The tower site's already ready, and looks like we're going to be getting internet at that site any time now. So once internet gets there, that'll be able to happen. K4ITL.
Yeah, I didn't try it the whole way to Wilmington the other day, but there were times when I didn't key it up, but I was able to work 90% of the way by using 3 different systems. I started with Cary. I don't remember what the next one I went to was, and then I went and switched over to Jacksonville, and I got that one a lot farther away than I thought I would. Of course, I was running high power, big antenna on top of a big truck with a CS800D on there. But I was pleased. I've been pleased with the DMR coverage. I haven't tried it to the west. We're toying with taking the RV to the mountains next year, 2022, and leaving it up there at like West Jefferson. But as I recall, I went up there 3 years ago, the DMR coverage was pretty consistent from here straight up 40 and then up to, I think it's 220 or whatever the other road is that you take all the way up past Wilkesboro. But yeah, man, thanks a lot for all you do. You and Murray and Ron Casey, Martin, all these other people, W4BAD, Harold does a real good job with all his stuff that links down here from Virginia. And Eugene, KC4WDI, I use his link system, and David, WA4IZG with the 9.4 and button. There's so many people that really make this hobby a lot of fun. And I tell people it reminds me of my days in broadcasting and radio with PTF and QDR and 94Z and all these other stations. You know, I just enjoyed it. I met people that I just, you know, would be friends with for life, and same with ham radio. So a great group of people, especially during the trying times and uncertain times that we're going through, to have this hobby for everybody to participate in. I'm going to throw it one last time. Anybody else before we close it out, because the RARSNet's coming up in a few minutes and other things are happening, and I'm sure we've all got other things that we want to do before it gets too late. Anybody else wants to ask Danny a question before I close it out? Call KI4DCR or send a Facebook message. All right, Danny, any final thoughts? And then I'll close it out after that.
That's pretty much it from here. Enjoyed chatting with everybody tonight. Keep your feet warm and your powder dry, because I think tonight we're going to be a little bit cooler than we were last night. I guess hopefully by the end of the week here, it'll warm back up a little bit before it gets cold again. KI4DCR from K4ITL.
Yeah, it looks like a little rain, as usual, rolls in for the weekend when it warms up. I'll be down in Sneads Ferry getting the camper set up Thursday and Friday. And I was wondering, my wife asked if it was worth moving our deck, 10 by 10 deck from Hatteras to Sneads Ferry. So I called my deck builder guy in Raleigh, and he said to build that same deck down there would run you $3,000 right now because of the price of lumber. So it was an easy decision to spend $700 and some to move it. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend. What a great net. I'm counting about 36 to 38 check-ins. I haven't even able to add them all up here. So it was a really great turnout. I want to remind people this is recorded. If you missed it, you can pull it up. I'll save it on Facebook. You'll be able to get it. I'm going to share it to Martin's North Carolina Amateur Radio Operators Group. It'll be a copy there. It's on the 224.16 repeater crew on Facebook, and I'll share it on the 224.16 repeater Facebook page. So it'll be in 3 places, and it will stay there indefinitely, all recorded here, thanks to Martin, who donated this cool webcam that I'm using, which I've gotten a lot of use out of already. So that's worked out great. Thanks again, KI4CFS, for that. Okay, thanks everybody. It's almost 8 o'clock, 4 minutes till. I just got 2 more check-ins. KN4WJL, Reston, Virginia. Travis Russell. Martin's going to post it on his YouTube channel, KI4CFS. Also wanted to thank Tim, KG4HOT, and his friend Jason, who I can't remember his call sign. They're up in Schuyler, Virginia. They've helped me a lot with trying to get Echolink to work here on the 220. It's still not working yet, but we're working on it. And Richard Futrell as well, N4AED. I had a brain mishap earlier and couldn't remember his call sign. Then we'll leave him out. So anyway, thanks to everybody. And if you want to find out more about the Piedmont Coastal Repeater Network, it's PCRN.net. Memberships, donations are always welcomed, and that's how we keep these repeaters working. And this was a lot of fun. Every time we do it, it's more fun. Robert's got the net tomorrow at 7. We'll be back to regular Rag Chews. He's probably got a question for the group. Always an entertaining net. So I'll flip the switch back to normal. This is KI4DCR signing clear and getting ready for the RARS net over on 6-4.